Hi guys, it is a miserably hot, sticky, sweaty day here in the soon-to-be drought-plagued wasteland of South Austin, Texas. We have made it somehow to Sunday, May 19th, 2013 here on the Rock. I thought I was going to be at a picking party out at the lake all weekend. So I didn't think I was going to be here. So you can find out what happened when Ham on Littletail decided to go to the lake. Go take a trip out to the country and go to the lake. That will be in my looming Water Wars in Texas rant, which you can find somewhere near this one. But Sunday is normally the day that I bring you, that I get up here on Doomsday Rock, and old Preacher Hambone brings you a reading from his latest Bible of the Apocalypse, which I will get to in a separate rant. But sometimes, guys, I don't even need to go to the library and find a book, because my alert readers send me in things to share with you guys, and I appreciate once again my buddy Pookaloo out there in California sending me this, bringing this to my attention. And this is the blog of one of my heroes, Morris Berman. I need to, at some point I will do a reading from Morris Berman's, one of his several excellent Bibles of the Apocalypse. But this is his blog, and I'll put the link here for you to go to, called Dark Ages America. There you go, Dark Ages America. And in his blog entry a couple of days ago, I guess from May 10th actually, he reviewed this doomsday prophet, Morris Berman, in turn reviewed a book from yet another doomsday prophet that he wanted to bring to his readers' attention, and I'm bringing on to yours, a fellow name of William Ophuls, I guess, O-P-H-U-L-S, William Ophuls, and his book, Immoderate Greatness, Why Civilizations Fail. And since it is not at the Austin Public Library yet, it was published last year, I will have to wait to bring you a full reading. But thank you, thank you, Morris Bertram, for quoting at length. And I'm just going to read this back out and put the link to it. So this is Berman talking about William Ophuls. His target is not America, but the entire industrial capitalist system, meaning the global industrial capitalist system. And his argument is that it is game over. Capital G, capital O, as it is my argument, it is game over for this global industrial civilization. Largely because, as he writes, civilization is effectively hardwired for self-destruction. And so Morris Berman turns it over to William Ophuls. So what is William Ophuls' reading of what is going on this planet? Okay, this is his doomsday prophecy. New programs within the old paradigm will simply recreate the old problems in a new guise. Moreover, my analysis suggests that there is very little we can do. Some of us would say there is nothing at this point we can do. So that his analysis, there is very little we can do. Most of the trends I identify are inexorable, and complex adaptive systems are ultimately unmanageable. To the extent that we can do something, the required measures are far outside the bounds of what is feasible or even thinkable today. Nobody is willing to go where we need to go to save this planet, is what he's saying. A genuine cure would require a revolution in human thought greater than the one that created the modern world, which in turn created the mess we're in. Then he quotes Wendell, my hero, Wendell Berry, who said, "Cultural solutions are organisms, not machines, and they cannot be invented deliberately or imposed by prescription." You tell him, Wendell. Getting back to William, from Wendell to William. Those afflicted by hubris, which, you know, hubris he defines as immoderate greatness. Another way of saying immoderate greatness is hubris. So those afflicted by hubris become the agents of their own destruction. We have seen this how many times in other civilizations that have come and gone and crashed and burned before ours. That's because they become the agents of their own destruction. All right. Like a tragic hero, a civilization comes to a ruinous end due to intrinsic flaws that are the shadow sides of its very virtues. Civilization demands for material and human sacrifice grow in proportion to its greatness. Well, obviously, you know, you can't argue that, although a hell of a lot of economists do. Okay. One of the greatest traps of all, meaning the greatest traps we are in today of all, is fanaticism. Refusing to recognize the values and goals of the system, even though they, meaning the values and goals of this system, have now become perverse or even disastrous. Somewhere between perverse and disastrous are the goals and values of this civilization. Okay, and he's talking about the moral core of this civilization, our moral core, and the guiding ideal of the civilization are now a distant memory, as civilizations just completely abandon their moral core, as we have done. What do you expect? So this is what follows any civilization that loses its moral core. Okay. An age of decadence inevitably follows. Frivolity, aestheticism, hedonism, cynicism, pessimism, narcissism, consumerism, materialism. I love the next two, nihilism and fatalism. And let's not forget fanaticism and other negative attributes, attitudes, and behaviors suffuse the population. I'm guilty of about half of those, and I used to be guilty of the other half. Okay, turning to politics. Politics is increasingly corrupt, while life increasingly unjust. Now, how about this for a description of what is going on this planet? Can you say New World Order? Can you say global corporatocracy? A cabal of insiders accrues wealth and power at the expense of the citizenry, fostering a fatal opposition of interest between the haves and have-nots. Isn't the Bilderberger meeting cranking up in a few days? The Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations. You know, guys, this guy is on target. Okay. Mental and physical illness proliferates. There you go. The majority lives, guys, it is no longer a matter of if. It is a matter of when and how. Those are the only two questions left to answer to my satisfaction and to more and more and more people who pull their head out of their ass, read what is going on this planet, and the more you go down the rabbit hole and pull your head out of your ass, these are the obvious conclusions. And here is just one more doomsday prophet for anyone who wants to listen. Okay. With its way of thinking and acting set in concrete, increasingly blind to reality and to alternative possibilities, an ossified civilization descends into a terminal stagnation that prepares its demise. The civilization's elites may understand that the system is dysfunctional, but fundamental reform would require major sacrifice on their part. You know, he's talking about Rex Tillerson, the CEO of Exxon, telling us to deal with it about global warming. What, you know, about, do you think that Rex Tillerson is going to walk away from his billion-dollar bank account to save this planet? You know, fundamental reform would require major sacrifice. So they fight to preserve their privilege and power. Bluntly put, human societies are addicted to their ruling ideas and their received way of life, and they are fanatical in their defenses. And nowhere is this more true than the burning of fossil fuels. You know, I mean, the big CEOs are sure as hell ain't going to turn loose of their reins of power, and every one of us who use fossil fuels, keeping these bastards in business by buying their products, we sure as hell ain't going to take any damn personal responsibility for the burning of fossil fuels in our own lives, as we are fanatical in you know, in our defense. Hence, they are extraordinarily reluctant to reform. Instead of changing their minds, leaders redouble their efforts to do what no longer works, wooden-headedly persisting in error until the bitter end. Can you say the Barack Obama energy policy, ramping up fracking and oil shale and tar sands development, as he claims to care about climate change? So, what do these planet eaters do? These world leaders in cahoots with the planet eaters, what do? They resort to stupidity, doing what has never worked in the past, what cannot succeed in the present, and what will destroy the future, both morally and practically. Can you say the Obama energy policy? First, by engaging in unnecessary wars or imperial ventures that drain the civilization of blood and treasure. Secondly, by buying off the populace with bread, circuses, and entitlements, thereby promising more than can be delivered in the long term. Oh boy. So, it is, as I've been reading from Wendell Berry about his agrarian ideas, a gradual and gentle transition to a viable agrarian civilization capable of supporting large numbers of people and a reasonable level of complexity is extremely unlikely. Well, yeah, extremely unlikely. It ain't gonna happen, guys. We must recognize that the deep structural problems elucidated above have no feasible solutions. Hence, the task now, meaning right now, is not to forestall a foreordained collapse, but rather to salvage as much as possible from it, lest the fall precipitate a dark age in which the arts and adornments of civilization are partially or completely lost. And this is why I'm talking about here, and I do these regular rants of living in the salvage economy. This is exactly what Jimmo's little unintentional community is. It is a snapshot into the future of suburbia as we salvage the dregs of this failing civilization. Oh boy. If preparations for collapse are made at all, they are likely to be too little and too late. Modern civilization is therefore bound for a worse fate than the Titanic. The only way out would require a fundamental change in the ethos of our civilization. And then he goes on from there, quoting two more of my Humpty Dumpty tribe heroes, John Michael Greer and Ronald Wright, who I've read for Right on This Rock. You know, so right here is a whole handful of people who get it, trying for whatever reason at this point to spread the word. Guys, you know, what is the point? Why am I on this rock doing this shit? And so from that rant, I will move on into my regular Sunday sermon from the rock, and when I'm going to read from you from the book, Wisdom for a Livable Planet. But you will have to wait 1 minute for some wisdom for a livable planet, because I'm going to wrap up this little doomsday sermonette and come back at you in a minute with more of the same from more doomsday prophets. Bye, guys.